Welcome back to Kind Regards to the show. Douglas Harding, who was a British architect and then later became a spiritual teacher, wrote a book called On Having No Head, which is about the illusory self and the experience that meditation can provide, this sort of experiential side of selflessness, which he describes with his term on having no head, headlessness, he puts it. And in this book he writes that he was meditating a lot, obviously, and he has this experience where all of his sort of knowledge fades away, and what he is and who he is all sort of fades away, and he feels kind of reborn, feels like a baby seeing everything for the first time. And he looks down and he sees his khaki pants and his brown shoes, and then he sees his arms and his sort of pink hands, and he looks up and he sees his shirt and it goes up, and then there is no head. He fails to find his head. And he says where his head was, where his head was supposed to be, that's where the world was. That's where everything he saw was. And he looked up, he was in Nepal at the time, and he looked up and he saw these mountains, these beautiful snow-capped mountains and the clouds, and he saw the world where his head was supposed to be. And in meditation, we get told sometimes, or you can be told sometimes, I get told by Sam Harris sometimes, to look for what's looking. You look out at the world and you experience the world, and you gaze with a broad gaze, and then you quickly turn your attention from the grass that I'm seeing now, or the camera that I'm seeing now, back to what is supposedly looking out at the world. And when you do this, not every time, but sometimes you can catch this glimpse that there is not a seer in addition to the seen. In addition to the thing that you are seeing, there is in fact only the seen, and there is no seer. And you can do the same thing with sounds. You can go, okay, hearing sounds. Okay, where's the hearer? And you turn your attention to what should be this self inside of you, this thing that is observing experience, and you realize that there is actually only sounds. Now, the exception to this would be thought, that maybe thought is different, but in meditation they're often lumped together with sounds and emotions, bodily sensations, sights. Thoughts are just another, appearance in consciousness, another thing that we experience, and that we don't actually need a thinker to experience them. In fact, all we sort of have are thoughts. And when we turn our attention inward, we find that the feeling that we had that there was a thinker or a seer or a hearer is in fact itself just an appearance. It's itself just a thought. It's just this, it's an appearance like everything else. Like the sounds appeared, this feeling that you had, a self appeared, but upon scrutiny, when you look for it, it actually disappears. There's nothing sort of to be found there. And I heard this instruction for the millionth time. Anyone who's been on Waking Up will know this, that he really hammers home the look for the looker thing, and it can be quite frustrating, and its significance can sort of be easily missed as well. But I won't go into that. Instead, I'll talk about, I heard this instruction for the millionth time, and then I was sitting and I was looking at these ants, and out of nowhere, the thought sort of pops in, which is like, oh, you're actually not here at all. All you're seeing is this thing. In the scene, only the scene. In the herd, only the herd. That's like a classic sort of Buddhist thing. In the thought, only the thought. No thinker, no seer, no hearer. And I realized this, and I was staring at these ants, and I was really stoked to sort of be with these ants. I was really stoked that I was paying attention to ants. And I realized something that I think I've known for a while, and there's probably an article on my Substack, Kind Regards Substack, about this, which is that what we are, what our lives consists of, is what we pay attention to. When I look for the self, that when I look for my head, where my head is supposed to be, that's where the world is, right? The sum total really of our life is just what we pay attention to. If you don't pay attention to it, did it really affect you? Did it really contribute to who you are or your experiences? No. And so I think this is a really significant point, or rather a handy way of framing what we're doing here and how we're constructing ourselves, because the illusory self sort of idea has its limits, and there's confusion there. Like, well, what am I supposed to do? Just have no name and just walk around like, oh, I'm just nothing, man? Is that what we're supposed to do? No. And I don't think any serious Buddhist is advocating that. But what am I? Let me consult the book. If we're trying to construct a self, the most tangible experientially, like the most truthful experientially way to do this is to simply acknowledge what we're paying attention to. That is what makes up our self, and how we are paying attention to it. We are constantly inhaling the world. We are constantly, our attention is always somewhere. And so if we're always taking in the world, always breathing in the world, like, how is the air? How are we enjoying this experience of taking in the world? Are we constantly lost in thought? Are we constantly, instead of paying attention to what is going on in the world, are we just paying attention to what's going on in our heads? Thought obviously has its place, but are we unknowingly paying attention to just, oh, what am I going to do later? Like, oh, maybe I'll have a chicken sandwich. Oh, yeah, whatever. Oh, last time I had one, it made me have a bellyache. Just like this stuff, which is, planning is fine, but this like random planning, oh, when I said that thing, I probably looked like an idiot. Like this regret, this random like replaying of conversations, oh, I should have said that. Like, is this what we're breathing in? Is this what we're deciding is going to be the contents of our life? Because in my experience, if I'm not on top of this, that's all it is. I'm constantly lost in thought. Maybe 5 times a day, I'll have a moment, like a literal split second, where I'm not, and then boom, I'm back. I'm lost in thought again, and I'm just like, I'm barely seeing what's around me. And if I am, it's just a prompt to be lost in thought on another tangent. Oh, there's a napkin on the floor here. Oh, it socks. People litter, that socks. This random train of garbage. Is this what we want to pay attention to? And I think the answer is pretty obviously no. I don't want to assume anything about my audience here, but for me, the answer is clearly I don't want to pay attention to just garbage, train of thought, crud, and instead, I want to have control of my mind, and I want to be able to direct my attention to the things that I think make a person a good person. To make what makes a person an asset to the world, what makes a person an ethical and responsible actor in the world. I would like to be that. That would be nice. And so, first of all, meditation trains attention. The foundation of most meditation practices is, all right, first things first, let's stop being lost in thought all the time. Let's stop being constantly captured by thinking, and instead be able to focus our minds and have some sort of control, which before you learn how to meditate is very rare to have that, to have really strong control over one's mind. And so meditation helps us decide what we pay attention to. And then also, like, if you don't want to do that, and I understand, slowing down is a really good way to do it. Walking just way too slowly really helps. That's like a good meditative practice in my experience. Things like stretching that sort of put you in bodily sensations and have you pay attention directly to bodily sensations does it. Active gratitude practices do it, where, before the meal you say like, yo, this is crazy that I get to eat all these different ingredients all mixed together in this delicious thing. What a blessing that I get to reliably have food. This is so good. Let's give it the sort of presence and appreciation it deserves by paying attention to it. Gratitude practices can really, bring our attention to the present moment. Meditation, I think, is an indispensable tool in this regard. But once we can direct our attention by, slowing down when we do certain things, okay, I'm having a conversation with a loved one who I don't see very often. Okay, let's slow down. Let's not be as reactive. Let's physically slow my words down and see if I can slow my mind and gain more presence so I can appreciate this time with them. Slowing down, gratitude, meditation, all great. And then we get to decide what we want to pay attention to. And I think this is huge. We can pay attention to, the media, which wants us to be afraid and addicted to consuming media. We can pay attention to Netflix, which just has, again, the same sort of addiction mentality, get you to binge as many episodes in a row, just get you hooked. That's all they want to do is more screen time, more screen time. The news just wants to make you afraid and get your eyeballs where they want them. What do I want to pay attention to? What do I want to give my life to? Do I want to read trashy books that I know I never really learn anything from? Or do I want to try and challenge myself and read something with more depth, something that will help me, evolve forward? Or if I am reading something entertaining, which I do, and power to you, I'm not trying to bag on entertaining stuff, but do I want to really appreciate it? Do I want to pay attention to it and really appreciate it instead of treating it as sort of a distraction, which is, the sort of quick brain, lost in thought mentality is just take me away, let me be captured by this entertainment, let me be captured by this distraction. That's what the brain is sort of after, the quick brain at least, is sort of after in those moments. Or do I want to slow down and appreciate it more deeply? In my own life, this is really applicable. I'm in a van, I'm in beautiful places all the time, I'm traveling around, I'm constantly near a beach. I want to feel the waves, I want to see the waves, I want to hear the waves, I want to notice birds and ants and the beauty, the natural beauty that is all around me all the time. It's constantly, I have a constant chance to access sublime feelings of gratitude for the world by training my attention and recognizing that what I pay attention to is what I am, that is what my life is. It gives my attention the magnitude that it deserves, and thus I should be directing it not towards a bunch of junk, but instead towards the natural beauty of the world. I wrote down the bark on trees, people in my life, and all their weirdness, all their strange sort of quirks, the ways that they're different, the things that make them them. I want to pay attention and sort of really appreciate that. The food I eat, the books I read. I think that's a really strong sort of message, and it gets me excited. I hope that's been helpful. This has been Kind Regards. If you want any resources on meditation, let me know, because I'm not no expert, but I've been doing it for a while, and I think I could give the resources that sort of cracked the code for me and let me know the significance of this and what it's supposed to be and what it's not supposed to be. There's a lot of misconceptions about meditation, about I'm supposed to have no thoughts, or I'm supposed to instantly be able to control my mind just because they said focus on the breath, and I think that's frustrating because that's not what the practice is. So I think there's a lot to be said here. And so if you want any resources, hit me up. Thanks very much for watching. Check out the Substack, the Spotify, the YouTube. Thanks so much. Take care.